So this is a piece that goes from verse into prose, and it came about this way. The next issue, or the now issue of a magazine called Maggie 2, Adam Fitzgerald, the editor, some of you may know, has a piece in it called, by me, written in September, called The Galliard of the Woodman. It's too long a piece to read tonight, but it occasioned from Elizabeth Crawford a piece which turned into the Song of Nausicaa, who was spoken of perhaps or not that way. I will speak very slowly till they sit down. That's better. Nausicaa got referred to, so I answered that poem in turn. So this is generation 3, that's called Nausicaa, which produced yet another text later. So it begins as verse. Nausicaa, you remember, is the woman who receives the naked and salt-stained Odysseus when he stumbles up on the shore. And they have a prolonged, what would you say in the newspaper now, prolonged and tumultuous affair, something like that, which led her no particular where, except that the great Samuel Butler, the great Cameron, and Samuel Butler described Nausicaa as the woman who wrote the Odyssey, and his text called The Authoress of the Odyssey is something to look at. Anyway, Nausicaa. Doesn't Nausicaa need old Odysseus to come stumbling to her up out of the surf? The sun so strong, by the time he reaches her and throws his arms down around her, her thighs feel the scurf of salt already dry on his. Such a danger when people stand close. But what does he feel while she feels? Does he feel a yielding river in her, old Potamos? A river that lets you in, says, come enter me, come float away in me with me, for a river is slender and goes somewhere, while your old ocean is fat and nowhere bound. I rescue you. Did she feel him feeling her saying all such things with the muscles of her flanks and of her ribs before he passed out from exhaustion and slid down her body to the ordinary sand? But what about this business, salt on her thighs? How did she know it was salt? She licked it. He was exhausted, passed out at her feet. What is the white stuff on his thighs in the rough hairs? She licked it to find out. Salt, sea salt. What could she have expected? Listen, this isn't about sex. It's not all about sex, you know. She licked his inert thigh in the same way she would, walking through the woods on an autumn day, see an unfamiliar leaf lying in her path. A strange leaf, perhaps the color of the inside of a hard green squash, a shape she had not seen before. She would pick up the leaf and, if there wasn't somebody like her mother looking, she'd lick the leaf quickly to know what it was, just the same way she licked his thigh. No woods nearby, just the tang of seaweed, bull kelp tangled in the slush of tide. Sometimes she ate kelp. Sometimes she dried it in the sun and swept the sand off it, then shredded the dark wildflower honey-colored stiff leathery stuff and chewed it. Plenty of salt in it, and the smell of the sea, same as now his salt. It always made her feel weird, excited and muffled at once, like balls bouncing off a low ceiling, bouncing up and down between top and bottom inside her. Something more than salt made her want to say small things, short sentences, like the beginnings of what people said to her before she tuned out. Why listen to anything but the beginning? Only the beginning is worth anything. She kneels down and licks the salt some more. She bites delicately the skin behind the salt, chews gently the fold of skin. The man moans in his coma, and she desists. She understands that she is in a world where she will have to be good at desisting, but she is allowed to lick the salt. Beginnings. She has to be good at beginnings. She's a girl, getting things started. Everybody is slow compared to a girl. But when things have gotten started, then she has to be good at running away from her heart. Where can you hide from your heart? You think I will hide in the loins, I will do lust instead of listening, will waltz with whom I list, but soon that desists by itself, even before you can desist from it. So, no. The only place to hide from heart is myth. Look at the whole old world word of it, mythos. It speaks from the moo of silence. My lips are sealed. I hum urgently at you. But all you can do is hear. You can't hearken, can't do. Is silence. The sea at midnight. Exhausted mom, weary from her kids. The mother cat asleep with chin on her paws. M. Then comes the sly umlaut of mythos. The famous make your lips ready to say E, but then say oo instead sound. It is lippy and loves you like a wet kiss, but it is shrill too. The eek of after, when the wrong one kisses you, or you kiss the wrong one. Then the theta of thorn, so sharp, it killed Rilke, it killed Scriabin. Peremptory, don't fuck with my roses, it says. Then soft, the word is ending now, ends with os. Sounds a little bit like us. Who are we? Who are we that the word identifies, ends in? Myth ends in us. All this while Nausicaa is running wet ankle to the sea scum to get help for this poor, so famous but she doesn't know it. It will make him even more so later when she writes it down, her little poem in 24 fantasies all about him, every fantasy written out plain in hundreds of haikus, linked, silly enough to build a culture on, soulful, true. This comatose adventurer who had coming, wading ashore at her forever. So, I'm notorious for disliking water. It's so alkaline. I should carry a lemon around for it. So on the night of Halloween, as it was going into what Catholics call All Saints' Day, the way the church tried to carry Halloween away from the fairies and the pagans, I had a dream just after midnight. I'd gone to bed curiously early, and I woke up around, 12, 1 o'clock, dreaming a poem. And the poem I was dreaming was called A Translation from Baudelaire. That was the name.